I've had this picture in my head for years, where I cannot see myself, just my back. Always walking towards something and never catching it. It's like an impossible chase. As I sat down, I realized I wanted what everybody wants, just to be happy. But how can I be happy if the old stories hold me back? If my past has become my present and my future? I knew I had a choice, either move forward or drown. How can art help people overcome challenges? Physical, emotional, and in your soul.
That's where our creativity is. Sometimes we just have to let our mind wander and go all over the place so we can get to the answer that we're trying to get to, because it's not a straight path. It is not such a direct journey. We'll have to consider something over here, then something over here, and then eventually we're going to get back to the answer that we're looking for.
If I was asked how art or the creative process works, I think I would say it is big magic. Creativity is something that comes through us as human beings if we are open to it. We are all artists, we are all creative.
Most people can identify that time or place when they stopped making art, or they stopped dancing, or they stopped singing, or whatever it was.
People will come to the classes that I teach, and they'll say, I can't dance. I just had this happen last week, and I presented at a conference, and this woman, and she's a Parkinson's patient, and she said, I can't dance. I have 2 left feet, and I was told as a young child that I couldn't dance. And I think oftentimes when we talk about arts, people really do sort of see this dichotomy. It's something like sports. It's something that you do when you're young and in school, or it's something that you do as a profession, and then there's no middle ground in there.
That people are inhibited by fear of not being able to perform either music or art or dance, whatever the medium is.
I might even have some artists coming in here that say they had a tough time in art class because everything for them had to be perfect. If they didn't make the color just a certain way, make the line, make their composition a certain way, it was very stressful. And they would get stuck, so there's no freedom there.
As children, we all usually do crayons, or we do acting or singing and all these things. And then as we get older, and society kind of shuns it, because as you're older, you can't run around, dancing and singing and doing all those things, although we could, but we can't.
The judgment piece that we have to take away, especially in the visual arts, because people have a lot of history of not feeling like they can draw really well, when that's not the issue. It's the process of dancing. It's the process of creating the art. It's the process of creating a piece of drama that's more important than the actual outcome. Because the process builds all kinds of good feelings inside you, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
What if you surrender trying to be good enough or arriving somewhere where you think you should be, or even believing in yourself in a particular way. Sometimes these goal-minded approaches just lead you back into the same loop you've been trying to untie since childhood. What is needed is not to be good enough or to finally believe that you're ready for whatever it is you think you should be already doing. What is needed is to be who you are, whoever that is. To ask yourself in each moment of doubt or failure, how can I be more me right now?
We moved towns. We went to a bigger town, and I really wanted to become a ballet dancer. I loved it. I loved it so much, and it was like a Father's Day performance. All the dads of all the little girls were there, except mine. And although I was sad, I feel like I didn't cry. I don't think I cried. I think I just put it all on the stage.
When I was a teenager, actually, I used art. I used to paint when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now that I actually used it for healing then, because I was going through some different issues when I was young. And I painted, and when I painted, I was like all by myself, like in a bubble. Even though there was people all around, it would just take me within and allow me to relax and forget about, what was bothering me.
The things that are really difficult, I've been through like infertility, death of a very close loved one, loss of, home and things like that. So engaging in the arts, especially in community, I guess, but even on my own, has provided a way for me to sort of contain my experience and also carry the difficult parts and the great things about life.
Working as a therapist, I've always found that people who are feeling sort of lost in their life or experiencing some symptoms, depression, anxiety, things like that, often through re-engaging them in their creativity, that can become a really important part of their healing process as well.
Give a little backstory. I was a victim of sexual abuse when I was a child, and so for about 50 years I just sat on that. And so I looked for methods of healing and tried like talk therapy, psychologists, and I tried yoga and meditation and found ways to sort of change my understanding of what happened sort of cognitively and change my attitude towards myself and my family dynamic. But I still felt that as if there was this darkness inside of me that I couldn't get rid of. And I think that's where expressive arts has really, really helped me.
The quote that I have on the back of my business card is, life isn't about how you survived the storm. It's about how you danced in the rain. Surviving the storm is one thing. I'm a cancer survivor, but I'm also a cancer thriver because I thrived afterwards. I danced in the rain. No matter what had happened to me, I don't care. I'm moving on. Like I got it once, and then I got it twice. And I even got my second cancer when my mother was dying of pancreatic cancer in California. And then I'm challenged. I dance. When my mother was dying, every morning we would get up and we would dance. Dancing is an important part of our life, and we are not going to stop it, even though we're challenged by all this illness and medical conditions and death and dying. So that's why this quote is so important to me, because you dance in the rain even though you've had to survive all kinds of challenges.
I love to dance. I think I came out of my mother's womb dancing.
Trying to remember those moments where an artistic expression took me out of a dark place. I had this really, really, really close relationship to my grandmother. She was my entire life. And when I was in Canada, she passed. It was a grief that I never felt. I remember leaving the house where they told me she had passed. And I went into the art studio and drew a portrait of her. But in the moment, just trying to keep her face alive, smiling in a way that I could see it, made me feel like she was still alive.
I think arts have this healing effect around you. My personal belief is that medicines will have an effect on your physical body, but there's always that path within our inner soul that medications cannot really reach at that level. And I think art could be a vehicle for individuals to be able to improve their health status.
To discuss what's going on with the diagnoses, what kind of medications are involved, those things. And then we have an hour or more of interactive dance movements and dance. And it's really exciting. We're with a group of students and we're patients with these students, and they are so enthusiastic, and we're so enthusiastic because of them. It's like feeding each other with good news, and despite some of our diagnoses, which are dangerous and difficult sometimes.
I've seen people transform their lives through just simply coming in. It's simple, but just coming in and creating some images, maybe doing some writing out of that. And then one of the most healing parts of it really is being witnessed by others. Mm-hmm. So I think that we all have a longing to be seen and heard in our most authentic and vulnerable, places, and that is what is healing.
This work is not just for the talented or gifted. It belongs to all beings who dare to wield the brush. Yes, this is your moment of reckoning and release. No philosopher's stone encoded to confound. The canvas will become your philosopher's stone.
When you work with anyone in the creative, expressive, artistic field, you learn more about yourself, what you're capable of doing. You might learn something that you didn't know you liked because you've never done it before. Art for Health is important to the community to help them become aware of what they can do through the creative outlet and how this can improve their mental health, their physical health, their overall well-being.
We had the opportunity to have the National Quilt organization for HIV/AIDS come into our community, and it was so moving. The media was here, the clients were just overwhelmed by what they saw, and to put focus on the issue and to say these people are not statistics, they're individuals. And I believe that traditionally we think of art as paper and pencil or crayons or paint, but it's so much more. So just thinking outside the box in terms of what works to calm people, and the goal is to use less medication in treatment, and really make that attempt at making sure that the mind and body are working together and that there's a healthier environment through less stress and less fear. And more of the positive emotions that can assist, we believe, with medical outcomes.
We had a patient who had been in a car accident, and he was bedridden. He was, for all intents and purposes, paraplegic. He didn't really have much movement. The doctors were encouraging his family to sign a DNR, and I went in to work with him, and he was in his room. There was stuff all over the walls in his room, and I was asking him, he kept kind of like looking to the side next to his bed, like on the wall, and I have a special like adaptive button or switch we use when working with kids with special needs. And so I hooked them up together, and I was able to put the switch near his hand, and teach him to activate the music just by like rolling his hand a little bit. And that kind of started a snowball effect for his family and for his progress and his recovery. Just by giving him a little bit of control over communicating with his hand, he is now, I mean, years later, he's walking and talking and eating, and he's had quite the recovery.
There was a gentleman there, him and his wife came in. It was so interesting because his wife was his caregiver, but she had dementia, and he had Parkinson's. So they both came, and he would start doing his art. And when he put his hands down, we were doing touch drawing, which you use your hands, you don't use any tools. It's just your fingers on paper, on paint. He would stop trembling and shaking. All of the times he was shaking, his hands were shaking or he was shaking. So we worked with him and we worked with his wife with the dementia, and she did a picture of her entire family sitting in a park on a bench. And she didn't even know my name. Like every time I went there, she'd say, "Hi, nice to meet you." And I'd say, "Hi, nice to meet you. What's your name?" We would do that every time.
And imagine if we had a world where everyone was passionate about the work they do. There'd be a lot less wars and a lot less crime because people will be having joy in doing it. And I think you find joy, your centered joy from your soul, when you do the arts in a way that allows that creativity to shine and allows the power to come from within rather than outside.
I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of funding arts in healthcare and art therapy, music therapy, dance therapy, even like yoga therapy, those kinds of alternative artistic type therapies. I think we need funding for them so that people are able to participate, and it's just kind of taking down one more roadblock.
Art could be an unspoken language to people that speak directly to their soul. And I think in this society where communication seems to be an issue, healthcare providers should do a better job using whatever resources are available, and art is the perfect way.
Encourage other people, because I think that would be fantastic if people really allow themselves to have that. It shouldn't be a special thing that only the very talented get to experience.
I think that everybody deserves and has earned the right as a human to express themselves.
Not a dancer and not an artist, so for me, it took some courage to take that step, to be unself-conscious about it, and I'm still a little bit self-conscious about it, but I think just if you can just step past that fear and just listen to yourself and do what your body needs and what your spirit needs, then it will reap so many rewards. So it's a matter of finding the courage to step past that fear and try something that you haven't tried before.
Right now. Feel good. What about you, Rachel?
I feel happy.
You feel happy?
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I felt like they had taken everything away from me. They took my grandma away, they took my dad away. They can take anything away from me, anything. But nobody can ever take away my right to express myself. At the end of this project, I want you to think of a moment in your life where the arts help you go through something. Either watching a movie, hearing a song, or drawing a picture.